When you think of Battlefield 2042 or Battlefield in general, you don't really think of the most competitive game space. You think of something that's pretty casual, a sandbox to mess about in, but that doesn't mean that Battlefield in itself is immune to problems that more competitive shooters have, and in today's video we're going to be covering one of the biggest ones, which is hackers and cheaters. Now on console, at least with previous titles, it was fairly difficult to come across hackers because there was no crossplay. You come across one every now and then, but for example, take Battlefield 5 or 1, the player bases there on console are fairly small, so if a cheater pops up, a lot of people report them, and they usually get removed. But cheating overall is something that you run into a lot less because it's a console lobby. But now that we have crossplay, it's a lot easier to run into hackers. But I didn't really believe that there were that many hackers in 2042, purely because I usually just stick to Conquest. You have 128 players in the server, and if somebody's cheating, you're probably going to run into them only once or twice. And if somebody calls out a cheater in chat, you're probably going to look at it and go, they've just been killed by this guy and they're salty. But why am I even bringing this up? Well, I jumped into Team Deathmatch over the last couple of days, and the problem there is a lot more prevalent than it is in Conquest or Breakthrough and the main modes. In multiple of the Team Deathmatch games that I played, I ran into players who were going 30-0 within 5 minutes of the match starting. Now that is a ridiculous number. And the other people on my team had been in rotation with them for a while, and apparently they had been doing this consistently and tracking people through walls in their previous matches too. Now I didn't believe this at first. I thought, well, whatever. I haven't really run into cheaters in this game before that often, but you know, maybe they're telling the truth. But then I saw it for myself, and these guys were cross-mapping people who were hiding behind cover. As soon as they peeked up, they would take their head off, and this happened to me a couple of times as well. It got to the point where half of my team just left the game. They didn't want to play and left the lobby. And when it gets that bad, you know there's a problem. Now before we dig a little deeper into this issue, I just want to bring up the fact that if you do see people cheating in 2042, and it's not that often that you will in modes like Conquest if that's what you play mostly, 2042's anti-cheat is pretty damn good for the most part, but people do slip through, and I found that Team Deathmatch is one of the modes where I see it most often. But if you do see anyone cheating or using hacks, and you can pretty much guarantee that they are, hit report, and if you don't know how to do that, you press whatever your options menu is, which takes you to the menu where you can leave or quit the game. You select squad and players, find the player you're looking for, press more, and then report and mark it for cheating, because that's the only way that we're really going to get any attention towards the people who are abusing the system. Because overall Battlefield is a fun game. It's not something that's overly competitive. I don't really see the need for cheating in it, but people do anyway. Another way that you can possibly draw attention to this is by telling creators. For example, we've got the CAD woman, one of the best Battlefield creators around, who actually had somebody impersonate CAD and go around using hacks. So this is something that's affecting creators as well. Now, I had no idea whether this issue was widespread or not, so I put out a poll to you guys, and at 108 votes at the time of recording, bear in mind this number will go up, and the results will vary in the future, 28% of you said that you had run into some cheating in 2042. Now bear in mind that not everybody may be telling the truth here, and it's just a simple poll, but that is quite a large margin of people who have run into some sort of issue with hacking or cheating in this game. So that does put a bit more perspective on how widespread this issue is, but I also want to draw attention to the fact that 2042's anti-cheat is pretty good. I see a lot of people claiming that there is no anti-cheat in place. That is false, or the anti-cheat just doesn't work. That is also false. There are always going to be cases of people slipping through and being able to hack. But for the most part, 2042's anti-cheat is solid at stopping people from cheating in this game. But let's look at some other perspectives from people in multiple Discord channels that I asked about their experience in terms of cheaters. Now these range widely, as expected, because not everyone has the same experience with cheaters, or have even run into them at all. For example, some say they haven't run into any at all. Some people's experience is that they've run into one or two, but they've been blatantly obvious when they have been cheating. For example, hitting all headshots and basically being able to wall hack. And in some people's experience, there are a lot of high-ranking players that seem to be using hacks that haven't really been banned at all. They've been around for a while. And we've also got an experience of having a cheater who can't be damaged by bullets and can only be hurt with explosives like grenades and underbarrel launchers. So we've got a lot of varying accounts from a lot of different people on what their experience with cheaters have been, how many they've encountered, if any at all, and we've got a pretty decent idea of how far this issue spreads. But one more thing to consider is that the game is getting a lot more popular now, and naturally the amount of people hacking or attempting to hack will go up with it. So that is something to also keep in mind. But the overall point of this video is just to let you guys know that this is the thing that does happen. If you haven't run into it in the past, just keep an eye out for it in the future, and if you do run into it in the future, you now know how to report if you didn't before. But either way, just report these players if you think something suspicious is going on, or if you are pretty certain that they are using some sort of hack. And keep an eye out on Battlefield creator channels to see if they point out any people who have been hacking for definite or are impersonating them and using cheats, and help us stop this problem, because it's something that ruins games. It's not fun for anybody, and we have been pretty lucky so far with Battlefield 2042's anti-cheat. I, for one, have only been running into this in Team Deathmatch recently, and even then, it's not something I run into every match, but it is something that is present in the game, so keep an eye out for it. This has been your local PSA. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.